Hi, Paul Thompson here with the enormous template part 2. So if you haven't checked out part 1, link below. Let's jump straight in with string ensemble shorts, which is where we left off the end of the last video. Okay, so incredibly useful Abbey Road stuff here. Again, I've got these split up so that they are the highs and lows. It's just for sketching really, but I do sometimes use these in, you know, if I've got them happening in an arrangement, I'm happy with them. I will leave this stuff in sometimes. And I've also got the octave spiccato from the legendary low strings. Now, by a point of comparison, we could look at the symphonic ensemble shorts here. This is a full keyboard shorts patch, so it's not split into the kind of highs and lows. I've just got the Decca tree up, and I'm using the articulation sets as before, so I can pick any of those short notes and perform them in, and those notes stay attached to those articulations. So for the spiccato, so that's really great as well. If I wanted a wider sound, I might pull in the outriggers there. Now, a little old blast from the past. This is the Bespokes. I've actually got these in here for the Collegnos, which I just love in these. Because they're quite absurdly huge and loud. A little bit of mixed tweakage there. But actually, just so you can hear the difference between these shorts, and I would tend not to use these shorts, I would use the symphonics, but just so you can hear the difference here. With the chamber strings, these are really great. Again, I pick the spiccato here. So it's interesting, much smaller section than symphonics, but it still has a punch and a tightness and a focus to it, which is really, really useful. And again, just for point of comparison, the Bespoke chamber shorts, a bigger band, double the size. A little bit aggressive, but an interesting comparison. Now we get into some slightly more interesting territory, off the beaten track. We're going into the Albion shorts and some of the more unusual stuff. So here I've got this set up so that I'm using the Collegnos. And again, this is just, I know that this would be my first port of call here, but actually if we go into the spiccato, and I would probably decide how I was going to use that. It has a little bit of the onboard reverb, but you can get it totally dry. And then you can kind of create your own sound around it. For me, looking to this stuff would be looking to create a different sound to the standard orchestral sound. So pretty straightforward. And I've also got the other ensemble, the traditional ensemble as well, lined up. Here again, I just have the first sound is the one that I kind of like the most, which is the ricochet. And again, that's an unusual sound, but you do have the option to just do the normal spiccato. So great to have that flavour as well, slightly different sound. Neo was an unusual project in which we wanted to create two separate string bands that were both quite tight, focused, intimate, and so they have a great sound. Now I'm using the outriggers here. As you can see, it gives it a real width to the sound, but you've got these two separate string bands and they do have slightly different performances, which makes them incredibly useful to use together. And it's just a different feel. We have some fabulous stuff in Tundra. Now, as you know, Tundra was recorded, the idea being to get a huge string section and get them to play really, really softly, and these very, very unusual articulations. Now, if I take the onboard reverb completely off, you can hear it's still got loads of great hall sound in there, but you've got these really interesting and if we go and dial in the close mics as well, you get the kind of crunch in the sound, all kinds of great stuff in here. And Saltasto shorts. Beautiful. Lots and lots of really interesting stuff. I won't go too far into there, but it's, again, all of this stuff is different flavors, different kind of, you know, it's like the chef analogy that I used before. It's kind of different spices. Sometimes you just want a different sound. Creating the sound of the band for the project, absolutely key here. Now we've got these fantastic hand sections. By default, they feel like you've stepped back a bit in perspective because they're huge. So when you have 20 players set where you would usually have, you know, for the violins, for example, you had 16 being your normal largest section. And then, you know, you've got kind of 20 violas, 20 cellos. These are huge sections. And they've got that great aggressive style at the very top. Again, you've got the left and right sections. I've popped in the violas for the middle there, a nice wide section. And then just to check out the cellos. So you've got a massive dynamic range there. And the mics that I'm using, just using a bit of close and outrigger. Could pop in the tree to give it that extra kind of centered sound, just make it a little bit more solid and thick. And then, of course, those 20 basses. So moving on to the soloists. Now, it seems like I've got a ton of things here. I'm not going to play through all of them, but I've got just, again, the different kind of flavours for the different sounds. So the first one up being the BBC Symphony Orchestra, the first leader legato. And just comparing that to the solo strings virtuoso. So you get the idea. It's a different sound, different studio, gives you a different kind of perspective. Just to pick something really different is the Ciccone, which was recorded in the beautiful Wigmore Hall. That again sounds really different as well, and that's because of the room that it's being played in. So you get the idea. The only other one that I want to demonstrate just here is I've got the alternative solo strings bass in, which I absolutely love. And I'm just going to play you a little bit with this. So you've also got the alternative long. Which has all of that fantastic crunchy stuff. This great damp pizzicato. And this is Mary Scully, an incredible bassist, and you get just so much of her character in these fantastic sounds. So that is always got a place in my solo string section. I will jump forward to the sectional longs. Now, of course, the first thing that I've got up in each section here is the Appassionata legato, which I just love. Loads of fun. Anyway, I've already been through those, so that's all great. We've got all of these different types of of legatos here at the top. I've got the Sol G, for example, in the symphonics. When you need that kind of throaty, that throaty kind of sound that just reminds me really of Rachmaninoff and all that kind of stuff. We have, that's a bit experimental patches still in there, which is what became Appassionata eventually. And then we've got the longs, then obviously the seconds, violas, and so on. So that's really just showing all of the legatos and longs from those main sectional strings. When you go into the shorts, you've got simply the BBC SO stuff, the symphonics, and the chambers. Might be worth just showing you the difference there in the sound. So here we have the spiccatos from the BBC Symphony Orchestra, from the symphonics, and from the chambers. So that gives you that idea of the kind of different sort of sizes that you've got in there. They do have the reverbs again as before. I've already shown this, but it's the same basic setting that I start out with. It's that cinematic rooms. None of them have got any reverb on at the moment, but I would kind of adjust that according to taste as the project is progressing and as I'm kind of working out exactly what I want the sound to be. Now, what's in here? So we've got effects, and I've split these up into two different things. So there are hall effects and then dry effects. So if we start with the hall stuff, it's a lot of the stuff that I love and use is from Albion, and it's the stuff you can control it via the mod wheel. It's really useful. There's loads of great sound effects in there. So if you haven't explored that yet, you should definitely explore that, because there's a ton of really useful stuff in there. I've got a few of my old favorites, bits and pieces, and this is more from habit than anything else, but these are sounds that I designed for the Bespoke series that eventually became part of things like Albion, and they do appear in the effects sections of the other string libraries, but just so you can hear them. It's that kind of stuff. Chatter, clusters, slides, all of that good stuff. And then I've got Albion 4 Uist, which has these really extraordinary stuff in there. Really amazing. Check some of this out. So super fragile stuff. But then when we go into the kind of the more effecty things, and this is just a crazy embarrassment of riches. There is so much stuff in here. I mean, look at this. Look at this massive list of stuff. It's just amazing. I mean, there's just so much stuff. It goes on and on and on. There's tracks and tracks and tracks of it. That's a great library. And actually using that with these articulation maps is incredibly useful, because you don't need separate tracks or trying to key switch and think, where was I can't remember what articulation I've got at this point. It's just assigning it to the note. So you play that effect on that note, and that's it. And then you will always hear that exactly the same back. Now, what about these dry string effects? What have we got here? Now, the first and most obvious thing which I'm going to be using is some of these fabulous things from the LCO, like, for example, these spectral scrubs, or these fabulous slacking crescendos. We've also got things like all these kind of great effects. And again, because this is recorded in a dry studio, you can kind of design the sound to slot in with exactly what you want it to do. So it's a great other alternative to the hall stuff, the Uist stuff. I've got this up. I just love the sound of it, so I'll tend to, have this up in the template in case. What a great sound. And then I've got a few little bits and bobs which I've recorded, sampled myself over the years. Now these things will never appear in the final of a score. They're in there as a kind of guide for me to stuff that I would always get replayed. So, for example, this is a guide as a half tone to whole tone. Which I can modulate between. So I can kind of design some of these effects. They'll never be exactly right because this stuff I would always want to reproduce live so that I can really shape the performance exactly. But there's still some great kind of, guide sounds to what I'm going to get eventually. And they can help me to get the kind of feel of the cue and the shape of the cue together before I've actually done the session. Super old, very old flautando that I think Christian and I recorded this in Airedale. Bit of a kind of synthy one that, but still fabulous fun. Right, orchestral low stuff. So this will tend to be the more natural sounding things. And I like to have a couple of different options. I've labelled this in the Hans Zimmer library, the O stuff, which just tells me that it's the outriggers. And again, it's a very distant kind of stuff. For example, here, the Spitfire percussion library. It's got a variety of low bits and pieces of percussion. I'll have things like these Hans Zimmer bombos, but again, this section I'm only looking at the naturalistic sound. So things, if I want to have that sound of something recorded in the hall. You get the idea. It's really going very much for that hall sound. Now, when you want to design the sound, when I want to have something that's a little bit more kind of a little bit more produced sounding, and I can put the room back in here. But again, that's something that Hans has had, has kind of got and really kind of tweaked and manipulated. Really useful low boom stuff. Again, a variety of different types. And all of these are very useful. There's even some from Albion 2 and the Albion Easter Island stuff. Now we're going into the kind of epic territory. So we really are into the sound design stuff here, and there's just a ton of great stuff here. And again, you can kind of adjust the mix if you want it. You can adjust the perspective if you want to kind of sit it slightly more into the hall. But there's some great stuff there. Albion 1 things. There are a few things here which I recorded, again, just separately myself in air, and they're things that we've recorded since, but they're still kind of, I still quite like them. As you can hear, single round robin, so just extra colours that I sometimes use, but nothing terribly complicated. Usual stuff here. So we've got again the kind of more naturalistic sound of some of the high orchestral percussion, all of that kind of stuff. I've also got some great stuff here, again using kind of naturalistically from Percussion Swarm, and these are just the single hit stuff. There's a whole load of performed you know, things, swells, rubs, all kinds of amazing stuff in that library. But just for this section, I tend to load up just the basic sound of the hits so that I can use those as a separate color there. We go then into metal and toys. So you'll have things like your usual anvil, lots of different options for that. A fantastic tam tam from Abbey Road. And then a huge variety of metals from the Spitfire percussion library with Joby Burgess. Lots of toys, things like that. HG2O, this is that fabulous and again recorded in the hall so that I can use that as a colour and sit it in amongst the orchestral stuff as well. Non-standard next. Right, so this is just a variety of mad stuff that I've recorded myself. We've got, you know, there's kind of all things that I've recorded around, different things that I can put effects on and get, you know, some really cool kind of sounds, sound designing things really in this section. There's some crazy stuff. Let me just turn this down because these are super loud. From Boom, who make really great sound effects as well. And things like that, just in case I want something that really is sound designed. And then, I really liked this. Which was from a session in Aerodel that we did, and I just recorded all of the mistakes and moving the mic and things like that, the kind of non-musical, non-performed stuff, which was great. I've got a whole section here for just temps, so that I've got the kind of different options from the different libraries. The Hans temps. And Hans' own designed version as well. The Spitfire temps, we go down through Harps. Again, it's a load of different ones here. I've got the some of the stuff from the Harp Swarm as well. So that's a really unusual, great sound, which is lots and lots of the harps all playing together. But here, the basic stuff for the main Spitfire harp. Now I've got a few of these just preloaded so that I can set the pedals and do things that are slightly unusual, but you know, it's almost like setting the keyboard into a kind of mode, and then I can use that mode to write with. Find that really useful. So then we're into the tuned percussion, and again, all the usual stuff. That's a little unusual, the desk bells, which is really, really cool. But you're getting all of the stuff from the libraries that we've just seen. Actually, this is a great sound. Those kind of pan sounds. We've got this great allophone here. A really beautiful instrument. And then we've got these great steel drum sounds in the hall again. And these are designed slightly so that they're, so we've got the harmonics are slightly damped on these so that it kind of gives you the flavour of the steel pan, but it's not just that steel pan sound. It's a slightly different sound in the hall. And that's a really useful sound as well. I've got some more detailed but drier sound from the Ricotti Mallet series. Really deep. Lots of different beaters. Those are incredibly useful, and again I would sit those in with my reverb of choice. What have we got here? Right, some keyboard stuff. Oh, up here. I always had that from listening to the old James Newton Howard scores and the Jerry Goldsmith stuff. I loved that kind of really kind of damp sort of staccato piano, that bottom end stuff that you often got in chase sequences. So I made one of those, and that was called the attack piano. That was the idea, and we that was in the Albion 1 Legacy thing. So that's in the Legacy folder there if you're after that. Some wonderful stuff from the Hans Zimmer piano. Couple of patches I always load up. This is one of my favorites. It's the super soft patch. And with a bit of pedalo. Incredibly useful. Some great tonal effects in here as well. Loads. Here's just one that I like using a lot. But there's a lot of great stuff in there. A couple of things that I've recorded myself, just some piano effects. That kind of thing in the hall, and a psaltery, which I've used a lot. Olafur's felt piano, lovely, lovely sound. And lots of other different options. The Originals series, all kinds of stuff. Ollie's double felt in the Pool project, which is a beautiful sound. And then my piano from the Media Toolkit. With those fantastic bits and bobs. So what else? Keys, right? So we really go down the rabbit hole now. We've got the symphonic organ set up, and I've got a couple of different setups for this, a couple of different options. But the first one is the kind of full tilt sound. We can also go really extreme if we want. All stops out. If you want to really get your Gothic on. Various other organs, harpsichord, euphone. This is another lovely thing, performed by Christian. That's a great one. Lots of great sounds in there. We've got these beautiful North 7 instruments. In the eDNA engine, so that's really useful as well, because I can quickly just grab some stuff and make something that's really unusual and characteristic. The dulcitone from Sound Dust, one of my old favourites, and Christian and I both loved this sample library for years. Beautifully sampled and created, so highly recommend that one. Then we've got some great stuff from Chrysalis, Sam Sims harp library with studio harps. Kind of unusual, a little bit different from how you might imagine a harp library. So a straightforward thing there, and then an E-bode. Lots and lots of different choices in here. There's one that kind of gives you that that's a fabulous sound as well. And I will spend a long time going through finding sounds that give me something different, that give me something that's a little bit outside of the norm. And as I say, none of this stuff uses any resources in Logic until you actually load it up. So you don't need to worry, that you're going to have your computer's going to fall over before you've even opened it up, because it's all good. Glass and steel. I love the sound of wine glasses. So I will always have. I've got the dollar sign there, which is something that I've used for Choose. I think I probably... Who did I steal that from? That's either John Powell or Trevor Morris. I've borrowed that symbol as a great idea for Choose. Don't know why it's dollar sign, but there you go. A couple of wine glasses that I recorded myself. When I say recorded myself, obviously I've recorded lots and lots of wine glasses over the years. But these are just two that I did about a month ago, something like that. Handbells mix. Yeah, this is from the Media Toolkit. And then we're into that kind of interesting sound. Just close the help bubble. That fantastic. These great things from Solstice, all got tons and tons of character. Bernard Herrmann. So lots of different things. I'm clicking on way too many things, but here we go. Glass glockenspiels. And you can hear the massive variety and character of all of these things. And I think that it's something I really think about a lot, is about the choice and about the kind of casting of the sound for the project. And having the option to use all of these different kind of flavors. It's the different players, it's the different instruments, it's the different room they were recorded in, the different intention behind what kind of sound you're going to create. All of this stuff is really, really useful. So I like to have it all there so that I can kind of go in and, and kind of start casting around, rather than trying to think, this is the reason for the giant template. It's rather than having to think, oh, was there a sound? Yeah, I think it was in this library, and then searching for 10 minutes, by which point your creativity has dived off a cliff and you don't actually know what you're doing anymore. You've forgotten what the idea was. So in the synth section, we've got a few things that come in live from the synth rack, a couple of bits and pieces around the studio. We've got, here's a few things. So I like, there's a few sounds that I like that I find kind of inspirational from a few different synth engines. So I'll pop one of each in, and then that can be a kind of starting point for, maybe exploring if I want that kind of the massive sound. Here's this ice pad. We've got the dark zebra, of course, Hans's modded zebra. The Yuhi stuff is just so good. I've got Serum, a couple of instances of this. And again, I like mangling these. These are kind of just for looking for sounds that are really out there. Phobos, absolutely love, of course. Here's one of the sounds from there. And I'll tend to use a couple of things that I've made myself in here, but all the presets are great. But I've designed a few things to do. This one is called Beacon, and it's it kind of reminiscent of a very old, fabulous spectrosonic sound in one of the original distorted realities, which I loved, which I overused for ages on TV drama, called Beacon. And this is my kind of updated take on that sound in terms of what I would use it for. I've got a FM8 in there just for a bit of kind of old favorites, that kind of old memory. And again, I'd probably do quite a lot of mangling on that to really get it happening. Now we've got some fantastic stuff from Aperture 3, the stack. And this is the stuff where you are adding loads of guitar amps as you go up the mod wheel. So you're increasing the kind of spatial, kind of dynamic. So on some of the more aggressive sounds, it becomes more obvious. Absolutely lovely. What have we got here? Composer toolkit stuff. I'm going way too deep, aren't I? We've got some stuff from the synth section of Albion 5. Now, again, these are things where I've spent a long time going through all of the sounds in every library and picking out the things that I think will go well with the other things, you know, give me really nice alternatives to things. And I'm looking for texture, and I'm looking for, you know, difference. That's the key thing. And then CDT. Yeah, lots and lots of great stuff. I've got a choose thing here from Martin Ware's No Illegal Collections. All different colours. There's some great sounds in there. Right, so let's move on. Evos, swarms, and grids. How am I doing for time? Do you know what? I'm gonna make this part 2, and I'm gonna do part 3. And we'll start with the Evos, swarms, and grids on the next section, just to make these not too kind of sprawling. I think maybe I'm just being completely self-indulgent, but hopefully there is some useful stuff in here, because showing you why I'm picking things and how I'm kind of trying to get as many different colors as possible from all of the different sounds that you could possibly choose. The thing that I will do once I've got a little way into a project is I will cull loads of stuff that is not being used. So I'll go through and I'll just get rid of things that I know that I'm not going to use. But at the beginning of the project, when you're trying to find the sound of it, that's when you really, I find that I really need as much choice as possible, so that I'm spending more time in my creative flow and less time in the other side of the brain looking for sounds, trying to work out where something was. Anything that takes you away from that moment of creativity, I try to kind of eliminate that from my workflow. So thanks for watching. If you've made it this far, that's part 2. And next up, we will finish this. There's quite a lot of stuff still to go through. But we're nearly there. We're just about to start around about 800 odd track count. So we are about a third of the way from the end. Thank you very much for watching. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.